I should have never stepped inside that place. Even now, as I try to put these words together, I can still feel the damp chill of those corridors pressing against my skin, as if the asylum itself followed me back. People in town always whispered about it. The Asylum of Masks, they called it. A name that sounded like urban legend, the kind of story kids tell to scare each other. But curiosity can be a curse, and mine led me straight into hell. The building greeted me with silence. The moment I crossed the threshold, I smelled it. Rot mixed with something metallic like rust and dried blood. The air was heavy, thick enough that every breath stung the back of my throat. My flashlight beam wavered across peeling walls and broken tiles, revealing stains too dark to be dust, too irregular to be water damage. At first, I thought I was alone. My footsteps echoed, each sound bouncing back at me like a mockery. But the deeper I went, the stronger the feeling grew. I was being watched. It wasn't paranoia. I could sense eyes in the shadows, clinging to me. My chest tightened, my pulse rising with every step. That's when I saw it. At the far end of the corridor, half hidden in the flicker of a broken ceiling light, a figure stood still. Its head was wrong, too long, with pointed ears rising in the darkness. The mask of a rabbit. The eyes weren't human either. They glowed faintly, like embers. I blinked, and it was gone, but the echo of its gaze remained, burning holes in my memory. I told myself it was a trick of the light. Shadows can play cruel games in places like that. But as I turned another corner, I froze again. A door creaked open, slowly, and behind it came the sound of breathing. Heavy, wet, animalistic. A snout emerged into the crack of light, curved downward like a grotesque parody of a pig's face. I didn't wait to see more. I hurried past, forcing my eyes forward, refusing to look back. And yet, it wasn't over. Because a third presence followed. I heard claws scraping lightly against the floor, paced and patient. When I glanced over my shoulder, just for a moment, I saw it, tall, hunched, with the elongated muzzle of a dog. It didn't move like a man. It moved like something hungry. I wanted to run, but the corridors twisted into each other, turning me in circles. And every time I tried to catch my breath, I would catch glimpses of them again. The rabbit with glowing eyes, the pig with its ragged breathing, the dog with its claws against the tile. They weren't chasing me, not yet. They were studying me, hurting me. The asylum wasn't empty, it never was. And I wasn't a visitor, I was prey. The further I went, the more I realized the asylum wasn't just decaying, it was alive. The walls groaned, the ceiling lights hissed as if breathing, and the floor seemed to pulse faintly under my boots, like veins carrying blood beneath cracked tile. I told myself it was my mind playing tricks, but the longer I stayed, the harder it was to believe that lie. The rabbit came first. Its glowing eyes blinked into existence at the end of a hallway, fixed on me without a sound. I lifted my flashlight, my hand trembling, and for a split second, its body twitched unnaturally, like a puppet pulled by invisible strings. Then, darkness. The light above fizzled out. When it flickered back, the rabbit was gone. Only the faint echo of claws scratching against plaster remained. I tried to retrace my steps, but the corridors had shifted. Every door I opened led to another hallway, longer, narrower, suffocating. I began marking walls with chalk to keep track, but each time I returned, the marks had disappeared, or worse, they had multiplied, scattered across the walls in symbols I never drew. Twisted shapes, spirals, and crude sketches of animal faces staring back at me. That was when I heard it. A laugh. Not human. Not entirely. A gurgling, guttural sound that rose and fell like a broken recording. The pig. The sound drew closer, heavy steps dragging across the tiles, leaving a faint smear behind. I pressed myself against the wall, barely daring to breathe, but the steps slowed. Right outside the room I hid in. My flashlight dimmed, sputtered, and for an instant, I saw it through the crack of the door. A massive head, swollen, skin stretched around the grotesque pig mask that looked more like bone fused into flesh. Its mouth moved beneath the mask, and I swear I heard it whisper, a single word that made my blood freeze. Stay. I fled before I could think. My legs carried me down endless passages until the air grew hotter, thicker, suffused with a coppery stench. That's when I realized I wasn't running alone. Behind me came the steady rhythm of claws against stone. The dog. Not running, not rushing, just keeping pace. My own heartbeat drowned everything else, but still I could hear it breathing, shallow and eager, as if savoring my fear. And then, as if the asylum itself had grown tired of my running, the corridors closed in around me. Doors slammed one after another, lights bursting overhead. My path led me into a vast, empty ward, lined with overturned beds. And there they were, waiting. The rabbit, the pig, and the dog stood in the shadows, spaced apart, like hunters circling their prey. None of them moved at first. They just stared, masks glistening with moisture, eyes glowing faintly in the dark. The silence was unbearable. Then all at once, the rabbit tilted its head. The pig let out a slow grunt, and the dog began to crawl forward on all fours, fast, deliberate, as if it had finally been given permission. I screamed, I ran, but there was nowhere left to run. The ward stretched on endlessly, the overturned beds twisting into grotesque shapes, their metal frames bent like ribs jutting out from a corpse. My breath came in ragged gasps, every exhale burning in my throat. The dog skittered toward me on all fours, its claws sparking faintly against the tile. The pig lumbered from the side, each step shaking the floor. And the rabbit only watched, its glowing eyes unblinking, waiting. I grabbed a rusted bedpost and swung it wildly, desperate, feral. It connected with something solid. There was a sickening crack, but the dog barely flinched. Instead, it tilted its head at me like a confused child before snapping its teeth inches from my face. The sound was unbearable, like bones grinding together. I staggered back, retreating deeper into the ward until my spine pressed against the cold wall. Trapped. The pig drew closer, its breathing wet, bubbling, as though it were drowning in its own lungs. The mask wasn't just worn, it was fused into its flesh, bone and skin, melding seamlessly into that grotesque snout. I saw pus glistening in the seams, veins pulsing around the edges. My stomach turned, bile rising, but I couldn't look away. Then the rabbit stepped forward. Unlike the others, it didn't move with hunger or rage. It moved with purpose, calm, controlled. Its glowing eyes locked onto mine, and for the first time I heard its voice, not through sound, but inside my head. A whisper, layered with static, vibrating through my skull. You don't belong here, but you will. I screamed, clutching my ears, but the whisper only grew louder. Images flooded my mind, men strapped to tables, screaming as crude masks were hammered into their faces, their cries fading into animal grunts and howls. Patients mutilated, reshaped until their humanity peeled away. The asylum wasn't a place of healing. It was a factory, and the masks weren't costumes. They were destinies. I tried to run again, but my legs buckled. My body felt heavy, as if the air itself had thickened into tar. The dog loomed over me, its hot breath washing across my skin. The pig crouched low, grunting softly, almost tenderly, like a lullaby before slaughter. And the rabbit knelt before me, its long ears brushing the ceiling. Slowly, carefully, it raised a hand to my face. The touch was cold, sharp. I felt something press against my skin, a texture rough and leathery, a mask. My eyes watered as I realized it wasn't holding it, it was growing it, pulling it out of the dark and pressing it against me. The edges dug into my cheeks, burning, fusing, as if my flesh welcomed it. I tried to fight, clawing at it, but my hands felt weak, useless. Breathe, the rabbit whispered inside me, and I did. The world dimmed, muffled, as if I were underwater. My thoughts blurred, twisted until words no longer made sense. Only sounds remained. Growls, squeals, laughter. I looked up at them, at my family, and for the first time, I understood. The asylum had given me a place, and the mask fit perfectly. If you're hearing my voice now, maybe the asylum has already chosen you too.
Subscribe to Horror Story Bar.